So let's go from Giants over to the New York Jets. I guess we'll start on the positive side with the Jets because we have a positive story and a negative story, and I'm feeling positive this morning. So, Braelon Allen, Jets rookie, 4th-round pick from this year, running back out of Wisconsin, has turned a lot of heads at OTAs, and I get it. Like I don't want to get over my skis yet. I kind of just want to temper my expectations, but still, I think it's exciting to see someone who you took that a lot of people really liked as a prospect, but what's standing out from him is something we didn't really see a lot at Wisconsin, which was his pass catching ability. So far in OTAs, he's been beating linebackers in space, which is great, and even is showing a little something yards after the catch, which you see his size and you think like, okay, this is someone who's kind of just he's going to run into the A gap and that's going to be about it. But if he could add that element of being a pass catcher to his game, I think that just makes him a much more well-rounded player.
It does, and it makes the Jets offense even more versatile. I mean, they have a few yards after the catch weapons now on this roster. Malachi Corley, who we've talked about a lot, 3rd-round draft pick. He's a great yak threat. Brees Hall is really good out of the backfield as well. And now adding Braelon Allen to the mix as a guy who can catch some passes out of the backfield, turn a 2-yard pass into a 15-yard gain. That's really important. It takes a lot of pressure off of Aaron Rodgers' shoulders. He doesn't have to be the hero. He doesn't have to sling it downfield all the time. He could trust his checkdowns and he could trust his underneath routes. And that's very important for a quarterback to have receivers underneath that can be true threats with the ball in their hands. So Braelon Allen coming out of the backfield, great running back prospect, a lot of hype around him, a lot of excitement about his physicality at Wisconsin and the way that he ran the football. But adding that receiving repertoire to his skill set, that's very important. Again, giving Rodgers another underneath option that could be a really big factor in the offense this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with Rodgers in comparison to what the Jets were trotting out there last year, I think he's going to be more willing to take the checkdowns instead of kind of just sitting waiting for something to happen and then either taking a sack or throwing the ball away, which then leads into what we were just saying there with the yards after the catch guys that the Jets already have on the roster. Malachi Corley, we know, is good at that. Garrett Wilson even has shown some skill at that at times. Brees Hall was great with that last year. But then if you're adding in another element out of the backfield in Braelon Allen, I think that's just tremendous. And to me, I think he has the inside track to be this team's RB2 when looking at the rest of the roster. I know they just brought in, Tariq Cohen, but I think even if he makes this team, that's probably just as a return specialist. And, you have Isaiah Davis and Izzy Abanikanda, who you drafted last year, but of the 4 other names, not Brees Hall, that are here and in the mix, I think Allen has the best shot to be, number 2 in the pecking order.
Yeah, and I thought the Cohen signing was pretty interesting. Like you said, likely going to be a return specialist coming off of an injury. He's dealt with a whole bunch of them throughout his career. But I do find that interesting that the Jets are adding more depth to their backfield and to their special teams. And I do think, to the credit of the Jets front office, they're finding a solution to the new kickoff format. Maybe that's where he fits in there, just kind of, with the way that that's changed and the way that tackle breaking seems to be something that NFL teams want to rely on a little bit more on the new kickoff format. Could open up a possibility there. But with Braelon Allen, I think you're right. I do think he's going to be in line to be the second running back on this roster and probably play quite a bit because he does have that power. He does have that ability to get out of the backfield. So whether you're talking third and short and you need a guy to kind of just bulldoze forward, Braelon Allen definitely has that ability. Or if you're talking third and long and you need a guy to kind of play as a scat back out of the backfield, Allen also has that ability. So I think it's really important for him to be versatile and for the way that he can kind of fit into multiple roles in the Jets offense. That's going to propel him up the depth chart and absolutely make him that second running back. So Brees Hall needs a breather. He's going to be your workhorse. If he's got a lot going on, 150 yards in a game, but okay, all of a sudden he just ripped a 50-yard run. He needs to take a couple minutes off on the sideline. Braelon Allen steps in, still a capable runner and a capable receiver. That's really important to kind of keep your offense moving, no matter who's gassed or who's playing high at a high level or a low level.
And something else too for the Jets offense this year that you're hoping is the case with just, how the team is, but they are built to where they should have, in theory at least, they should have leads in the second half of games. And I think Allen would help them out in trying to close out a game. Jets didn't really have that last year. in their wins, they were trailing or coming back. It wasn't until the Denver game, which was like week 5 or week 6, that they had a lead in the second half. It was just a very bizarre start to their season. But if they're playing with a lead, one, we know like how beneficial that could be for their defense, but offensively, they're going to need to be able to run the ball well. And behind Brees Hall last year, they didn't have anyone who really thrived in that. Like Dalvin Cook was an absolute disaster. Michael Carter wasn't very good. They end up moving on from him. They couldn't get Izzy Abanikanda on the field. It was just a mess beyond that. So having this guy who's again coming along and looking like he could be a strong candidate to be an RB2, I agree with you. I think he is going to be utilized a lot because you're not going to run Brees Hall 40 times a game. You're going to need other guys to get carries too.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. You mentioned Izzy Abanikanda. I think I said it right.
Nailed it.
Okay, no, not at
Yeah,
all.
no, you nailed it.
Oh, okay, let's go. So I think it's important to mention him as well because I know that's somebody that a lot of Jets fans had some excitement about last year, but that just adds to the depth at the position. And I think it's important to highlight it's the running back position. We're not talking about depth at, defensive tackle or linebacker where, those guys, yeah, sure, they get banged up, but they usually play through it. Running backs oftentimes get injured, and oftentimes when they do get injured, it's usually season ending. Like there's a lot of strain, a lot of wear and tear on the running backs' bodies. It's the most injured position in football. So having capable rushers at running back 1, running back 2, running back 3, that's really exciting stuff. And that shows you how good of a roster Joe Douglas, to his credit, has constructed this offseason. Not only is the starting lineup excellent, as we've discussed many times on the show, but now that we're taking a look at some of these second stringers and third stringers and young guys who could play larger roles this year, there is a lot of talent and there is depth on this team and depth at often injured positions like running back. So very important stuff. It's not just Brees Hall and Braelon Allen versus the world. They've also got Izzy and maybe some other talents as well that I'm not fully aware of. But I do think it is really important to note that this running back room is pretty full and has a good amount of depth to it. And again, because of how often injured that position is, that's something that you do have to prioritize as a front office.